In the show, we see 17 variants of Invincible, but to figure out who is the strongest Invincible, we need to look at each one and the times they showed their true power. Starting with a variant that nobody wants to talk about. Sporty Invincible is more of a dishonorable mention than anything. This variant dies off screen after not being seen doing too much. He gets just a brief appearance in the initial invasion, and that's really it, excluding his potentially charred corpse that Powerplex is standing over. Because we simply don't have a metric to use for his strength or even weakness, he is going straight to the bottom of the list. But the next one is a big step. Bulletproof Invincible was shown wearing a costume similar to Earth's Bulletproof. After the initial invasion, we should see him get absolutely demolished at the end of day 2. He was shown getting his neck snapped by a group of Reanimen. He comes in low on the list for again, not really being seen outside of the initial invasion, as well as that he didn't really do any damage before being taken down. But the next variant gives us our first show of strength. Flaxan Invincible shown wearing the armor of the Green Flaxans who attempted to conquer Earth in Season 1. However, we do have some actual information surrounding his death and potential level of power. While he is never directly shown doing anything, we know that he attacks the GDA where Cecil and Donald are. But by the time we see him there, his corpse is being beaten by Reanimen, with the Viltrumite nullifying signal playing loudly over the intercoms before Cecil calls him off and disables the alarm. Cecil is bleeding, Donald has parts missing and exposed cybernetics, and there are a few dead Reanimen and the remaining ones are a little busted up. So Flaxan Invincible didn't entirely go down without a fight. He comes in at number 3 due to actually being shown to have done more damage than Bulletproof and Sporty Invincible. But the next one is much stronger. Maskless Invincible is the first on the list to have not been killed. After we're introduced to him, we next see him destroying Paris. When Angstrom Levy gathers the variants, this is the variant that states he misses William, right before Levy strands them in the Wasteland dimension. He comes in lower on the list because we don't get to see much power display from him, and he got damaged unlike the next variant. Black Mask Invincible seemingly doesn't accomplish much, and even appears unharmed, but this isn't the case. This variant would actually destroy Sydney. He was also potentially the only variant who isn't totally evil. His goal was to abduct Deborah from the main universe and take her back to his. But this variant comes in at number 6 as he looks like he took less damage after all the destruction. The next variant showed his strength much more though. Long-haired Invincible is shown easily eliminating 2 heroes on day 2. He pushes a purple masked gunslinger straight through a house, before slamming a car down on a see-through domed hero's head. He's later shown dead with Oliver and 2 other heroes limping away, who were all in pretty bad shape. This shows us that he also came to blows with them, but didn't quite make the cut, leaving him at number 7 on the list. The Invincible variant that Oliver mistakes for Mark and Flight comes in at number 8. He is shown to be already covered in blood and flying through a destroyed area, meaning he has to be somewhat strong. When we next catch up with him and Oliver, he clearly has the upper hand. Throwing Oliver into a building while holding a large piece of road, he seems excited and even says, "This is gonna be fun," before taking a direct blow from Oliver, and not only tanking it with relative ease, but seeming to enjoy it. But unfortunately for him, he was overpowered by a lightning-based heroine and a bug-based heroine. He is not seen on the 3rd day with the rest of the variants, so it's likely that Oliver and the 2 other heroes got the best of him. But he certainly showed some strength, or at least more than the others on the list so far, which leaves him at number 8 on the list. This variant is part of a pair of incredibly similar variants. His distinguishing quality, a fantastic mustache. He wears the standard Viltrumite uniform we saw before in flashbacks from Nolan and on Thraxa with the other Viltrumite warriors. We see him in space talking on Tech Jacket, a character from the source material who was incredibly powerful. Although he is dispatched by Tech Jacket in the next appearance, his Viltrumite standing and readiness to take on such a powerful enemy marks him at number 9 on our list. It's a close call, but our next contender beats him out by a margin. The second part of the pair, this variant is wearing the Viltrumite standard uniform, but lacks the mustache. We come across this variant falling from a building while grappling with another powerful hero that he had already killed in his own universe, and was more happy to kill a second time. This variant, however, survives his bout with the hero, and is seen on the 3rd day with the other variants stranded by Angstrom, showing us he is more than durable, placing him at number 10 on our list. Prison Invincible is definitely one of the more distinct variants. He is also one that we get more backstory for. A line in the show reveals that he spends a year in a Viltrumite prison. After witnessing what Nolan was put through in just a short few weeks, it's safe to say that makes this variant one tough dude for surviving a year. He absolutely decimates Moscow in just a few short swoops. then zeroing in on a Russian hero before stating, "After a year in a Viltrumite prison, I could use a little warm-up." This tells us that he is threatening the destruction of a city and a battle with a hero as nothing more than a light exercise. He survives up to the end of day 3. Prison Invincible is number 11 on the list because of just how much damage he causes with how little effort he expends. Not to mention the hero he goes after is not seen again, but the next variant's strength is a massive step up. Emperor Invincible is clothed similarly to the main universe Invincible, except for the Viltrumite logo on either shoulder. This Invincible variant is seen in front of a burning Buckingham Palace, tossing around an armored superhero before he screams, "I wouldn't even make you a slave in my empire." Given that quote and his title, this variant appears to be an emperor, and the logos on his shoulders would signify he is the emperor of the Viltrumites in his universe. This is by no means a small feat, as no doubt Omni-Man existed and would have either had to been bested or step aside willingly, not to mention the other Viltrumite warriors. He shows up later in the episode fighting a large muscle-bound hero and a smaller hero working in tandem, easily dodging and sidestepping all of their attacks before taking them both down with a single blow, placing him at number 12 on the list because of his destruction of England, easily bodying several heroes with ease and possibly ruling the Viltrumite Empire. He definitely did not struggle with his task. Like the next infamous variant, who ups the ante even more. Goggles Invincible is infamous to fans after what he did, first coming to attention in the Teen Team Tower with an apparent robot drone in hand and a bunch of scrapped ones laying around. He appears to be hunting for the drone containing Robot's true body, and he just hit the jackpot. Bulletproof manages to sneak in a lucky shot before No Goggles Invincible claps back. Hard. Kicking him into the roof, which collapses, and then flying up to meet him mid-air for a punch down, showcasing his strength, speed, and battle knowledge. Monster Girl is already down for the count. Rex is fatally wounded and the tower is in shambles. We've seen Teen Team, or at least the current members, face off against some pretty dang serious threats, Lizard League aside, and they barely even slowed this variant down. The thing that ironically gets him killed is his own arrogance. He gets caught monologuing and Rex manages to get the last word by detonating his skeleton and blowing up this variant while the remaining members of Teen Team escape. He might not be one of the survivors at the end of day 3, but he definitely slapped Teen Team around with little effort. He also caused massive amounts of destruction with the potential for much more, gifting him the title of number 13 on the list. Hooded Invincible is distinguishable by the blue hanging cloth covering his face. When we first see him in action, he is already facing off against a group of heroes, slamming his fists into the floor to destroy a large portion of road, then knocking them all back before Mark and Eve intervene. Later, we see him go against Mark and Eve, taking a bit of a beating, but it doesn't seem to affect him too much. With 5 separate heroes laying dead or defeated around them, he states that they might have beaten him if main universe Mark and Eve weren't busy trying to protect those other heroes. Not only was he capable of holding his own against our Mark and Eve, but also several other superheroes at the same time while managing to defeat them. No small feat given Mark's current status as the Earth's strongest hero paired with Eve's capabilities. Plus, as we saw earlier this season, Mark and Eve have trained together to work well in tandem as an effective fighting duo. Also given that Eve came face to face with Conquest later in the season and managed to put up even a temporary yet effective fight. He is joined by Omnimark, who he even refuses help from, a request Omnimark outright ignores. Right before being pushed into a building by one of Eve's pink matter walls, which doesn't seem to harm him, it just slows him down a little. He comes at Mark with combos along with Omnimark, meaning he can actually work well in a team. This is a surprising trait given pretty much all of the variants are evil and are going at each other most of the time. As the fight comes to a close, Cecil drops a load of reanimin on top of him. It seems like they get the best of him as we do not see him among the survivors at the end of day 3. Given he was able to take on Mark, Eve, and multiple other heroes at the same time, he is easily one of the strongest on the list. He's definitely up there, but not quite as tough as the next variant. The Invincible variant seen fighting alongside Blue Mask Invincible, the first on the list to have been fully confirmed to kill Omni-Man in combat, already telling us just how much of a threat this variant is. He chides Blue Mask for swearing before rushing Eve, showing off his impressive strength, smashing through a couple barriers like they were glass. He is later hit by the same pink matter wall that gets Blue Mask and also tanks the hit with the building to the face followed by what looks to be a chemical explosion without a scratch. He again is shown fighting in tandem with Blue Mask with a rush of well-balanced combos, meaning he also has the rare variant trait of working well in a team. His combat prowess is no joke, because mid-combo, on our mark he switches target and rushes Eve again, this time not slowed even a little by the pink matter wall, before grabbing and snapping her leg like a twig, putting Mark on the back foot once and for all. He knew to target her because that was Mark's weak point, and as much as they were fighting together, Mark was also trying to keep her safe at the same time, showing his tactics. He slams her into the road, which destroys a large section of it, so we see his brutal strength in full force, despite the apparent lack of exertion on his behalf. Omni-Mark survives the reanimate attack, relatively unscathed, and we later see that he is the cause of the decimation of Tokyo. He is near the top of our list for battling Mark and Eve, and even coming out on top if it weren't for Cecil's intervention. Among the very cream of the crop, the variant sporting the traditional suit but lacking the goggles. He is first seen fighting the Immortal in the desert, where he is knocked into an Egyptian tomb, before quite easily shaking off a nasty curse trying to take hold. We later see him joyously trading blows with the Immortal as the camera pans around the room. We see multiple duplicates dead, scattered around the place. A repowered Black Samson laying pretty battered and bruised on the floor, mind you a hero with known super strength and regenerative healing, while going blow for blow with the Immortal. He continuously states how much he is enjoying this, meaning he is likely not taking it seriously and it is more of a game for him. We find out that Darkwing is still alive as he gets in a lucky shot before pretty impressively, No Goggles Mark manhandles both him and the Immortal at the same time, easily flipping the Immortal before turning to grab an attacking Darkwing by the ankle and slamming him to the floor, snapping his leg. In a callback to Omni-Man's attack on the original Darkwing, in just that tiny interaction we see speed, spatial awareness, strengths, and tactics. The Immortal rushes No Goggles again and seems to be laying into him. Before we see that, No Goggles is taking each blow with a smile, before easily catching the Immortal's hand and punching him into the floor. The Immortal, who is Earth's mightiest hero for millions of years, has countless eons of experience, super strength, speed, a regenerative healing factor, is little more than a chew toy for No Goggles. We see him easily cut down a few more duplicates before it pans to Shapesmith, who is a mess of gore on the floor, meaning No Goggles brutalized the entire team, likely at the same time with relative ease, especially because he was smiling, laughing, and taunting them for most of the fight. Once he finally stops messing around and gets even fractionally serious, he puts the Immortal down in seconds, smashing him into the floor and decapitating him with his foot like he was squishing a bug, telling us just how much he was holding back just so that he could reveal in the slaughter a bit. This is definitely one of the more sadistic variants of Invincible, as he constantly gloats about torture and murder. A fitting number 16 on the list given that he absolutely demolished the current Guardians of the Globe. While he enjoyed his time, the only reason he is brought down was because of Darkwing's sacrifice and seriously lucky shot. The last on our list have died during the Invincible War. Okay, before we go any further, beware for potential laser season spoilers, as we might dive more into the source material to really put on display which of the Invincible variants is the absolute strongest. Sinister Mark is one of the variants with the most screen time, as we see him towards the end of Season 2 when he is hunting down a variant of Angstrom and his son in the name of Viltrum. He is by far one of the more openly evil variants and relatively distinct from them too, in that his uniform has a black and yellow color scheme and a cape. He is another variant confirmed to have killed Omni-Man, and considering Omni-Man is one of the strongest Viltrumites, this makes it clear he is one of the strongest. We see him throughout the episode multiple times, at first in Hong Kong fighting Best Tiger, dodging bullets with ease, then later fighting a lizard-like superhero who is not seen again. He also appears in the shot of the variants floating over destroyed cities. He was responsible for destroying Los Angeles. And finally, he appears among the survivors stranded by Angstrom at the end of Day 3, being the one that screams for Angstrom's death. Now, while he doesn't appear to accomplish much compared to his other counterparts in the show, he ranks highly on the list due to the source material. Final warning for spoilers ahead. Sinister Mark was one of the only 3 survivors at the end of their time in the Wasteland dimension, after some time with no food or water. They begin to, well, eat each other, and it's heavily implied that Sinister Mark was the first to suggest and partake in this. Among the final 3, he and other variant tried to kill and eat Mohawk Invincible. After being unsuccessful in that venture, he turned on the other variant, killed, and then ate him too. We see our Mark become stranded here when he sees Sinister Mark, looking ragged and having grown a beard while munching on the remains of the variant. He is clearly insane, not knowing if Mark is real at first, but quickly turning on him and trying to eat him as well, out of boredom, a never-ending hunger and insanity. Mark, only trying to help at this point, is almost savaged by Sinister Mark, who proclaims he can help by letting him eat him. Mohawk Mark, another of the final two, finds and helps Mark briefly escape. Then he explains how the cannibalizing started, mainly at the hands of Sinister Mark, who then finds and catches the two before Mohawk Mark finally smashes him into the floor and caves his face in, while decrying the actions of Sinister Mark and showing remorse for his actions against the other variants. Out of all the variants, Sinister Mark is likely the most evil, and one of the final two survivors in the group, leading him to the second highest on the list at number 17, leaving only Mohawk Mark, the variant with the most screen time and likely the strongest variant, or at least from what we've seen. He was first seen smashing straight through the prison that main Mark protects. He is still there when we cut back later in the day. The prison is a mess. Dead prisoners, collapsing guard tower, flames and all. Then we hear that signature crackle. He wastes no time figuring out that he just met main Mark. He taunts him and then it's on. Main Mark grabs him and slams him through the prison. But when they come out the other side just seconds later, Mohawk Mark has the upper hand and flanks Mark backwards before landing a blow that clean wins our Mark. Already we see incredible combat skill and strength. He combos that into a brilliant uppercut, catches his foot and slams him back into the floor before pirouetting and flinging him into the air. Not only is he quick to react, but he even adds flair to a pretty devastating combo that likely would have ripped anyone who wasn't a Viltrumite into pieces. Our Mark does gain the upper hand by smashing him in the ears, but Mohawk Mark was in the lead for the majority of the fight. His next feat was easily tanking energy from Powerplex and hitting him hard enough that it actually seemed to knock him out instead of just charging him up, something even main Mark had difficulty accomplishing. We see him beat down by Mark and presumably the other heroes who had mistaken Mark for a villain, but he's not out yet. He regains consciousness, those heroes are not seen again, and could be presumed dead. Next, we see him cut the Empire State Building clean in half, before being shown floating over a devastated New York in the shot of them all over the world. He is among the survivors of Day 3 and is seen taunting other Invincibles, including Black Mask Invincible and Sinister Invincible, showing he doesn't care what they think and is sure of his capability to take him on if needed. Now we get back into the comic territory to really cement his title as the best of the Invincible variants, so final warning for future season spoilers. It's revealed that the remaining Marks cannibalized each other, leaving only Mohawk Mark, Sinister Mark, and Viltrumite Mark, who was killed by Sinister Mark shortly before main Mark's arrival in the Wasteland Dimension. There, of course, is more to his story, but we really only wanted to cover what made him the strongest Invincible variant. Our final entry at number 18, the very best of the best. If you enjoyed this video, you'll enjoy the one on the screen.